Concerned Citizens Club is going to be joining us here today, and we want to welcome Sue Modell to the program. And you guys have an upcoming lecture series. That's the second annual Millie Hicks Lecture Series. Before we talk about the series, tell us real quick about Millie Hicks and the endowment that she left the Concerned Citizens.
Well, thank you. Millie Hicks was a very devoted member of Concerned Citizens, and when she passed away, she left us, let's just say, a generous bequest. And we decided that one way that we could use it would be to try to bring people in to speak to us who might not ordinarily be available, namely people who might be at a distance or commanded a high price.
Like speaking fees, things like that?
That's right. Speaking fees can be astronomical. In any event, so we're bringing in someone from the University of Texas, from Austin, Texas.
Sandra Rosenblum.
That's right.
Okay.
Now, let me tell you a little about Sandra.
Please.
She's actually raised in Los Angeles and went to school through UCLA for bachelor's through PhD. And her focus is the transportation needs of the elderly. And the way she got into this is that, as I said, she's raised in Los Angeles.
Right.
And she noticed that we don't want to give up our cars.
Yeah.
And
well, we're so locked. I'll say this: we're so locked in. We have such a bad system of transportation for folks that we are a community that has to kind of stay locked into our cars because we don't have really good alternatives, right? We have the bus system, and I don't want to get a letter from OCTA, but it really makes it hard if you don't have a car. So I mean.
Well, some folks here at the Village might take exception and say that here in the Village we actually do have a pretty good transportation system.
Yes, there is here.
But the issue is, and here I think Sandra Rosenblum could really speak to it, the issue is that we don't want to give up our cars.
No.
All right. Even so, it may be partly that after spending so many decades being totally autonomous and driving wherever we want, it's really tough for us to give that up.
Yeah, absolutely. It's almost a mental thing, you know. It's a grieving thing. It's like part of that independence, part of that life, part of that who I am is wrapped up into my ability to go to these places and do these things. And when you take that away from someone, it's like a loss of a family member practically. There's a mourning period. I've known people who have been in arguments with their children, their adult children, about that and that issue. Like, Dad, you can't drive anymore, and the fights and the grievances that go on, right? So it's a serious business.
Well, so here's the thing. Sandra has not made it her mission to get us out of our cars.
Right.
Rather, she's actually made it her mission to help us to drive safely as long as possible.
Right.
So she's going to come and she's going to talk to us about ways that we can improve our driving safety as we age, and also how we can keep our cars in a condition such that they won't let us down either.
There we go, yeah. So among the topics are going to be characteristics of older drivers, tips for pedestrians and passengers, difference in the ways women and men drive, and there's a difference, strategies to help older drivers drive more safely, and options available for when we actually have to stop driving, so that point comes. So it sounds like a great opportunity to learn a lot about maybe, hey, if I change some behaviors here, and if I do some things differently here, like the maintenance of the car, for instance, or just a little bit more safety on the road, or some of the checks that I may have forgotten to take care of over the years, that can be possible, right?
That's exactly right. And I mean, I don't think that she thinks we should, be driving when we're totally incompetent. So
that's the last one. Options when we have to stop driving.
She may talk some about, because she also has experience about knowing what kinds of options older people are more comfortable with. So actually, she's got a lot to teach us, and maybe also staff and village leaders as well. Lots of people would profit from listening to her really wide research. She has consulted with governments. She has really been all over the place, all over the map, all over the world in advising people. So we think we're really lucky to have her coming to the Village.
Now, the stigma is that older drivers are worse than younger drivers or other drivers. Is that true? Do you know? Or?
I do know. I've actually chatted a bit with her because I find this so interesting. Older drivers are actually safer than very young drivers. Mm-hmm. The worst drivers are actually adolescents and young adults.
They know it all.
Right. Well, you know, they may be kind of in peer competition and things.
Sure.
You know, they're also much more likely to be drinking and driving, or under the influence of drugs. Older people have a much lower rate of that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So actually, older drivers' safety record is better than you might have thought.
Yeah, and from my own knowledge of my kids, they just think everything's going to be fine, nothing's going to happen. They don't have that world of experience yet to know actually things do happen, accidents do happen, and that kind of thing. So I think there's a little bit they don't have that risk aversion that other adult drivers or older drivers actually have as well.
Well, I'm sure that's true, but then again. We can be trying to kind of overcome our risk aversion too much, too.
Sure, it swings both ways, doesn't it?
That's right.
So, what would you say? And we're going to get more from this from Sandra Rosenblum when she's here on November 7th. But what would you say is the time to stop driving? What do you know? What are some of the signs you think?
Well, I think that little minor mishaps are an important clue. Mm-hmm. When people start having trouble getting through our gates, or they start noticing dents. I have heard stories of people who kind of somehow downplay the dents around their car, like the posts are moving in to hit them. So, but actually, there are telltale signs like that. Hopefully, we don't have to have a bad experience, really bad, before we figure out it's time to stop.
Yeah, and it's such a tough challenge, because, especially for family members, like I said, well, okay, I'm going to stop driving now. How do I get around? How do I build in all of the support systems that I don't have anymore now that I don't have a car? And so I think that's a challenge too, right?
Well, here in the village, I would say there's a great deal of neighbor driving neighbor. Mm-hmm. It's amazing how generous and kind people are, that they're willing, to help one another out. And that, of course, also gives people a little social time together, too. So there may be more than one motive for it. Mm-hmm. But we do have, actually, a pretty good bus system. We also have a new program in Orange County with taxi mobility, where for $5, you can go anywhere in the village or actually anywhere relatively close in the county. We do want to touch on those options a little bit.
Right, and there's the excursions program where they do the shopping centers and the trips and that kind of thing.
But it's a transition, is the point you're perceiving.
That's the thing. Is that how do I convince that person in my life, and my family member who I love, that it's time to step away? And those are the real challenges in that. And I think let's recap one more time. Sandra Rosenblum, she's going to be here on November 7th. Tell us a little bit about what we can expect.
Well. Our doors open at 6:30. We have wonderful refreshments at our events. You come to Clubhouse 7. 7 o'clock, there'll be maybe 5 or 10 minutes of club business. Then Professor Rosenblum is going to speak. We expect a packed house, so come early to get a seat. And then at the end, she'll probably talk for about 45 minutes. We do expect and welcome questions, and I have a feeling that our audience is going to have a lot of questions.
Yes, I have a feeling it's going to be a solid debate at the end of that one. Right. Sue Modell from Concerned Citizens, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for sharing our information on your program.
Absolutely.